You won't believe what happened to 13-year-old Amara, a bright and confident middle schooler who loves to learn. One day, her world turned upside down when her teacher, Mr. Warren, made a shocking comment in front of the entire class, belittling her because of the color of her skin. Amara was humiliated, struggling to hold back tears as her classmates looked on in stunned silence. But this isn't just a story of pain. This is a story of justice. Amara's mom, Nicole, is no ordinary parent. She's a fierce, powerful CEO with a reputation for standing up to injustice. When Nicole hears what happened to her daughter, she decides it's time to take action. What happens next is a showdown no one at the school saw coming. Will Mr. Warren face the consequences of his actions? Stay tuned to find out how one mother's courage turned humiliation into triumph. Amara sat in her room that evening, replaying the moment over and over in her mind. The way Mr. Warren's words cut through her confidence like a knife, she couldn't shake it. She had always loved school, but now, the thought of facing him again made her stomach turn. Nicole noticed her daughter's unusually quiet demeanor at dinner and gently asked what was wrong. At first, Amara hesitated. She didn't want to seem dramatic, but the pain was too much to hide. When she finally told Nicole everything, her mom's face shifted from concern to quiet, determined anger. Nicole had faced prejudice in her own life, especially as a black woman rising to the top of the corporate world. She knew how these moments could leave deep scars. But Nicole also knew this. No one, especially not a teacher, was going to make her daughter feel small. She promised Amara she'd handle it. The next morning, Nicole walked into the school office with a calm yet commanding presence. She wasn't just a concerned mother, she was a woman on a mission. She politely asked to meet with the principal, Mr. Davis, and explained the situation with precise detail. Mr. Davis looked uncomfortable, but Nicole wasn't interested in excuses. She wanted answers and action. Meanwhile, in class, Amara kept her head down, trying to avoid any attention from Mr. Warren. She couldn't stop wondering if her mom's meeting would make things better or worse. Some of her classmates whispered words of support, while others stayed silent, unsure of how to navigate the tension. Nicole's meeting with Mr. Davis didn't end there. She insisted on speaking to Mr. Warren directly, a move that made the principal visibly uneasy. "I'm not leaving until we address this," Nicole said firmly. The tension was palpable, and everyone knew this wasn't over. As Mr. Warren entered the office, he was visibly uneasy. Nicole sat across from him, her eyes sharp and unwavering. Mr. Davis attempted to mediate, but Nicole cut straight to the point. "I want to hear why you thought it was acceptable to humiliate my daughter," she said firmly, her tone calm but ice-cold. Mr. Warren stammered, fumbling for an explanation, but his excuses only made things worse. Nicole wasn't buying it, and her determination filled the room. Meanwhile, word of the confrontation spread through the school. Amara's classmates began to rally around her, whispering encouragements during breaks. For the first time since the incident, Amara felt a glimmer of hope. But she also knew how unpredictable Mr. Warren could be, and the thought of him facing her mother made her stomach churn. Back in the office, Nicole leaned forward, her voice steady. "You owe my daughter, and every student in your class, an apology. Publicly." Mr. Warren's face flushed, and the tension in the room hit its peak. The showdown was just beginning. Just as the tension seemed unbearable, Mr. Warren's defensive demeanor shifted. "This is being blown out of proportion," he muttered, his voice low, but laced with frustration. Nicole's expression didn't waver. "Blown out of proportion," she repeated, her voice calm but commanding. "Do you understand the damage your words caused? Not just to Amara, but to every child who looks to you for guidance." Before Mr. Warren could respond, the door opened, and another figure stepped in, Mrs. Patel, a fellow teacher who had overheard the conversation. "Excuse me, but I think this meeting is missing some context," she said firmly. She revealed that Mr. Warren had a history of complaints from both parents and staff for his behavior, though it had often been brushed under the rug. The room fell silent. Nicole turned to Mr. Davis. "How many times have you ignored this before?" she asked, her voice sharp. Mr. Davis stammered, and it became clear that this wasn't just about Amara. The stakes had just gotten higher, and Nicole knew she was uncovering something much bigger than she'd expected. The room felt heavy as Mrs. Patel's words hung in the air. Mr. Davis shifted uncomfortably, his face revealing more than his words ever could. Nicole seized the moment. "So this isn't just about Amara. How many students have been affected while you looked the other way?" she asked, her voice steady but cutting. Mr. Warren glanced at the principal, clearly caught off guard. Finally, Mr. Davis sighed and admitted that there had been previous complaints, but he claimed they were minor and never formally pursued. Nicole's calm demeanor shifted into a tone of resolve. "Well, that ends today," she said. She informed them she had already contacted the school board and shared evidence of Mr. Warren's behavior, including testimonies from other parents and students who had experienced his mistreatment. Then came the twist no one saw coming. The school board chair, whom Nicole had contacted earlier, walked into the office unannounced. She looked at Mr. Davis and Mr. Warren and said, "We're conducting an immediate review. Consider this your formal notice." The look of shock on their faces was palpable. As Nicole walked out, she turned back once more. This isn't just about holding people accountable. It's about making sure no child feels less than they are ever again. Amara, waiting outside the office, saw her mom's confident smile and finally felt a sense of justice. But the battle wasn't over. Change was just beginning. In the weeks that followed, the school board launched a thorough investigation into Mr. Warren and the administration's handling of past complaints. Mr. Warren was placed on leave, and eventually his teaching license was revoked. For Amara, the experience had been painful, but it also became a powerful lesson in standing up for what's right. She saw how her mom's courage and persistence turned a moment of humiliation into a catalyst for change, not just for her, but for other students as well. The school implemented new policies, including anti-bias training for teachers and creating a safe reporting system for students. Nicole's efforts inspired other parents to come forward, and together, they helped build a stronger, more inclusive environment. As Amara walked into school one morning, her head held high, she felt something she hadn't in a long time: pride. And for Nicole, knowing her daughter's light was shining brightly again was the greatest victory of all.